Today, a potpourri of 6 items that'll be brief, rapid, maybe even salient. First, we're being pummeled by news stories about Ebola, of course, and I can't ornament that in any way except to draw attention to one particular aspect. The United Nations has asked for $1 billion to fight the emergencies in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. So far, they have received 25% of that amount. Allow me to point out that the bombing in northern Iraq consumes more than $1 billion a month. Thus are the priorities of the international community conveyed in such stark terms. Number 2, there are 37,000 people living with HIV in Liberia. There are 49,000 people living with HIV in Sierra Leone, 79,000 in Guinea. That's a total of 165,000 people living with the virus. They require antiretroviral drugs every single day to stay alive. But clinics are closing. Hospitals are closing. Doctors and nurses have disappeared. It's important to recognize the havoc which Ebola is wreaking on the country as a whole and how many additional lives are being put at risk, as well as what happens in the instance of Ebola itself. This is an emergency that the World Health Organization can't deal with in silos. It has to be dealt with overall to save the country and its population as a whole. Number 3. Out of South Africa comes a remarkable report indicating that 14 million people don't know where the next meal will come from. 15 million are living on the brink. That's more than 50% of the total population. Now, a very good journal in South Africa, the Mail and Guardian, has initiated a contest wondering whether at root level, at the most impoverished, you can live on 6 rand a day. That's 54 cents. Number 4, also out of South Africa, comes a story that Winnie Mandela, the often controversial and surely destructive former wife of Nelson Mandela, has decided to file a claim saying that her divorce from Mandela was fraudulent so that she can have access to his estate, which was not left to her in his will. It's a great pity that the internecine conflicts of the family continue to be on public display. Number 5. It's been more than 6 months since the more than 200 girls were abducted in northern Nigeria by Boko Haram. You would think with all the military sophistication in the world that they could by now have been rescued. It's impossible to imagine what has been done to those girls, those young women, in the intervening 6 months, while the president of Nigeria cavorts complacently at the United Nations headquarters in New York. And finally, the independent newspaper in the United Kingdom is publishing a story today that the National Health Service of the UK will begin providing 1 pill a day for what they call pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, a pill called Truvada, which when taken by high-risk groups, by members of high-risk groups, can reduce transmission of HIV by 90%. What a breakthrough that would be. Would that it were true of Ebola as well. That was last week. I'm Stephen Lewis.